He's San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan, and he joins me right now on the show. I want to welcome you to the show. Welcome to Inside the Issues, Mayor. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me on.
There's a lot of things to talk about here in the state, but as I mentioned, you've had some interesting words, not just about Governor Gavin Newsom, but about Sacramento in general. You as a mayor here in California feel like Sacramento could be doing more. Just tell us from your perspective there in San Jose how that's true.
Yeah, I mean, just on the governor specifically, I think he's a generational talent, and I actually appreciate that he's standing up for our values. I don't have a problem with that. Where I became critical was when that critique extended to private sector employers and a rejection of criticism and feedback from constituents who I think have a point. We have to look in the mirror and recognize that even if we're pushing back on overreach and breaking the law, violations of the Constitution from the White House, we also have our challenges here that our constituents expect us to deliver on. We have the highest poverty rate, highest housing costs, second highest energy costs. We've got to solve problems here at home. The best resistance is delivering results for our residents. And frankly, I don't think Sacramento is doing nearly enough on addiction and mental health, homelessness, making it easier to build housing, same with energy and upgrading the grid. And so I have tried to be very policy focused on where I think Sacramento needs to do more if our cities are going to be successful.
Well, I think you rattled down a lot of the issues that we talk about a lot on the show. A lot of people are constantly thinking about. And let's talk about housing and homelessness. I mean, I have seen that with a slight uptick in homelessness in your city, there's been a much bigger uptick in the number of homeless people who are now in shelters, which you've looked at those numbers. And just talk a bit about how you feel about how that issue is playing out in San Jose. Are you happy about the progress? Do you call it progress?
I do call it progress. I think San Jose is leading the way. As you mentioned, our homeless population has been fairly static at around 6,000 individuals, but we've gone from just a fraction, 14% being sheltered, to a point where by the end of this year, we believe we'll be roughly 50% sheltered. There is a huge difference between having people live outside in sprawling tent encampments with no infrastructure, very little law enforcement, and just misery for the folks who are out there, and a high number of overdose deaths, as we all know. World of difference between that and getting people into interim housing where they have their own private room, 3 meals a day, case management, and an opportunity to turn their lives around. So I think San Jose's efforts, state leading efforts to build basic dignified shelter when it's available, require folks come indoors, and get our city back to being safe, clean, and accessible public spaces for everyone is leading the way. What we need now is for the state to actually support that work. This year, our state government zeroed out the funding we've been using, the flexible HAP dollars that we use to build and operate those interim housing solutions. And the governor vetoed a recovery housing bill that would allow, not mandate, but allow us to use state funding to build sober living environments for people who are serious about getting sober and turning their lives around. And it's just very hard to solve these problems without partnership from Sacramento.
And that last bill you were talking about, AB 255, it's one that the governor in his veto message said, you can already do that if you look at my housing guidance. Do you feel like that's not true? Do you feel like he said it would be just duplicative and costly to create a new statutory framework around that?
It's not true in practice. The reality is you can have recovery-based, sober living programs within Housing First, but you can't mandate that everyone in the site be signed up to be in a sober living environment. So in practical reality, what that means is someone can be committed to sobriety, but their next door neighbor has no such commitment or accountability for sticking with a treatment program. And the fact is, if you're trying to get over an addiction and your next door neighbor is actively using the substance to which you are addicted, and in the case of methamphetamine or fentanyl, we're talking about highly addictive substances that alter people's judgment and trap them. It becomes nearly impossible to break free of that addiction. So technically, can you run an abstinence program in a state-funded Housing First development? You can, but you can't require that that be the environment for everyone in that building, which is as good as not doing it for most people.
So here you have a policy-based difference with Governor Gavin Newsom, and also you've written some op-eds about Governor Gavin Newsom, and you've written in one case, spicy attacks online. We need to break this pattern of equating spicy online attacks from Governor Gavin Newsom towards, say, President Trump, and not equate them with actual successful attacks on our very serious problems. And this is part, there's been a headline from Politico that says you're a tormentor of Governor Gavin Newsom. Do you feel like that's a fair assessment based on the policy and also taking his social media activities to task?
Well, I want to be very clear that my disagreements with the governor are not personal. They're not even particularly political. I think he and I agree on 80+% of issues. My concern is with the style, the approach that I fear, and look, he's incredibly talented and has done a lot of good things for our state. I can't say that enough. But I am worried that Democrats in our state, and it starts with the culture we set at the top, are often ready to substitute the rhetoric of resistance for the hard work of delivering measurable results for the constituents to which we are accountable, to whom we are accountable. Our residents are relying on us to bring down the cost of living, to end unsheltered homelessness, to make our cities safer, to clean up our neighborhoods, to create economic opportunity. And if all the air gets taken out of the room as we compete to post more viral memes attacking the president and blaming the other side, the other party for all of our problems, we're failing to govern. And again, the best way to resist what the other side is offering, if you want to talk about it in partisan terms, is to actually show that your policy ideas work better, that our diverse, inclusive cities in California can actually offer a higher quality of life, greater economic opportunity, greater affordability, greater safety. If we can deliver, we can dispense with a lot of the rhetoric. And that's what I'm asking us to do, is to set goals on those big issues and make steady, measurable progress by working together at every level of government.
And Governor Gavin Newsom has also said, though, part of fighting back means not allowing President Trump to rig the election in a state like Texas. He has the Election Rigging Response Act, this Prop 50 special election that we have on Tuesday. And so this is a little bit of like the rubber glue thing happening. He's doing it online with the trolling, and now he's doing it with this Prop 50. Do you support Prop 50 then, or do you draw a distinction between what we're seeing with Prop 50 and the online activity?
Well, Prop 50 is a tangible, actual change. Look, the reality is I will vote for it, but I do not think we should be proud of it. I think, as your last segment highlighted, it is a race to the bottom. And, on the one hand, it is true that you can't expect one side to unilaterally disarm. So I understand why it's on the ballot. I want to see us be able to get to some kind of parity. I don't like that it's a race to the bottom. And the real solution that we should all be focused on is ensuring top two primaries and independent redistricting across the country in red states and blue states. That's a race to the top. That actually makes our elections more competitive, more representative, and creates a more accountable government. So I don't like it. I'll support it for the sake of having balance in Congress and a level playing field. But a level playing field with a lower bar is not a great outcome, and we shouldn't be proud of it.
Well, there's so much more to talk about with you. You're using AI in San Jose in really interesting ways. You have something called the Back to Basics agenda, where you're trying to work with other mayors around California. And I hope we get to have a chance to have those conversations in the future. We have time tonight, but looking forward to having you back sometime if you'll do it.
Would love to do that. Absolutely. Thanks for the time.
Well, thank you so much. Great to have you here. That's Mayor Mahan from San Jose with some ideas on the state of the state of what we're seeing in Sacramento, and of course, the hyperlocal impacts, a lot of these issues that are going from the White House all the way to here in California. More coming up. Stay with us.